Ready to soundtrack your summer? With Red Bull Summer All Day Play, you choose a playlist that fits your summer vibe the best. Are you a festival fanatic, a deep end DJ, a road dog, or a trail mixer? Just add a song to your chosen playlist and put your summer on track. Red Bull Summer All Day Play. Red Bull gives you wings. Visit redbull.com/brightsummer to learn more. See you this summer.
So good, so good, so good.
Everything you want for summer is at Nordstrom Rack stores now, and up to 60% off. Stock up and save on the brands you love like Vince, Sam Edelman, Frame, and Free People. Join the Nordy Club to unlock exclusive discounts, shop new arrivals first, and more. Plus, buy online and pick up at your favorite Rack store for free. Great brands, great prices. That's why you Rack.
Welcome to the Susan LoPresti Wellness, Mind, Body, and Soul podcast. This is your go-to space for midlife and mature women who are ready to reclaim their health, boost their energy, and live long, vibrant, and purposeful lives. Today's guest is Amy Marohn. She is an executive performance hypnosis expert, author, intuitive guide who is helping redefine leadership, wellness, and success in today's high-pressured world. Amy is the creator of the Executive Performance Hypnosis program, which is a powerful approach that seamlessly blends neuroscience with spirituality to help executives, managers, and conscious teams move through burnout, chronic stress, and overwhelm while cultivating clarity, focus, collaboration, and authentic leadership. Her work sits at the intersection of science and spirit, making it especially impactful for light workers, women in business, and professionals seeking meaningful success without sacrificing their health or their values. Hypnosis is increasingly being recognized as a breakthrough wellness tool, with recent features in the Financial Times and the Daily Telegraph. Amy's real-world results reflect this growing awareness, particularly among middle-aged and older professionals who are ready for sustainable performance and deeper fulfillment. Amy's work is deeply personal. After surviving a near-death experience and navigating two very rare health conditions, one of which nearly took her life, she turned to metaphysical healing tools, meditation, and self-hypnosis to manage chronic pain and fatigue. That profound healing journey became the foundation of her life work. She is also the author of Whispers Behind the Veil, where she explores the connection between intuition, spirit communication, and leadership. Today, Amy helps leaders tap into intuition and even mediumship to enhance decision-making, team culture, and conscious leadership. With a global audience of over 18,000 business owners, spiritual entrepreneurs, and health professionals, Amy brings a very unique and grounded perspective on what it truly means to lead, heal, and thrive. Please join me in welcoming Amy Marohn to the show. Amy, thank you so much for being here today. I'm so excited for our conversation.
Thank you, Susan.
You're very welcome. I'm so happy to have you here. Amy, can you share a little bit about your journey and what ultimately led you to this work that you're doing?
Yeah. Great question, Susan. Thank you. I work as a spiritual hypnotherapist, and the name of my company is Sensorium Hypnosis. And I've been doing this work for about a decade. And boy, there's such a deep story, spiritual awakening that led me into this work. Over 10 years ago, Susan, I was working in corporate America as a rehabilitation consultant in a pain management clinic. And during that time, I was struck with, I call it a mystery illness. I had a major surgery about now 14 years ago, and I believe something happened. I didn't quite recover well, and it activated some pretty substantial autoimmune challenges. At the time, I didn't know, there was no name for what I was struggling with, but I had chronic fatigue, chronic pain, and a whole host of neurological issues. From my autonomic nervous system was very dysregulated. I struggled with tachycardia and bradycardia, so my heart rhythms were pretty irregular. I had blood pressure issues, vertigo, and I had been struggling quietly behind the scenes while trying to navigate this corporate position. And some years into this position, it became more and more apparent to me this whatever it is that I had wasn't going away. In fact, I was getting sicker. And the process of going to work was very stressful. I was taking fistfuls of ibuprofen, leaving early from work. Behind the scenes, like so many people with these mystery illnesses, I was chasing doctors, trying to put a name to this mysterious illness. And then one day, I came across the name of a doctor in Michigan. And anyway, I was traveling to Michigan to get a diagnosis. They slapped a name on it. It's a long one. It's called myalgic encephalomyelitis, ME for short. It's inflammation of the brain and spinal cord. Went back and forth to see this doctor for 10 months. I wasn't getting any better. I failed his protocol. At the 10-month mark, threw my hands up in the air and I said, God, either take me or heal me. Do not leave me this way. And I had a near-death experience. My soul left my body. I was given a choice of whether to stay or go. And in that moment, it was downloaded into me the knowledge or the cumulative impact that my early departure from the earth plane would have on my son, who was quite young at that point in time. And my experience in the near-death experience that I had was clairaudient and clairsentient, Susan. So what I mean is, I call it the voice. I heard the voice, or experience via mental telepathy this question, are you ready to leave? And then the clairsentient part was I could feel the emotional overload that my death would cause my son. In that moment, as much pain as my physical body was in, as much of a state of emotional despair I was in, knowing that I couldn't work in corporate America, my life was never going to be the same. I also knew I had a soul contract with my son. I decided to come back. My soul was reabsorbed back into my physical body. And moving forward, Susan, my life has never been the same.
Wow.
And so I'll pause there because I'll tell you what's to follow really carved out the path that I'm on now. But I'll pause because I know that was a lot that I shared.
That is incredible.
Susan, it is. I know I work in my role with people who have had near-death experiences. And then, of course, through these podcasts, I've certainly heard others' experiences with near-death. For me, I was home alone. I had many trips to the ER. I'd even been on the cardiac unit at some point. And again, through all these hospital visits, nobody understood what was going on. I had all these anomalies, blood work, and experiences, and the doctors always released me from the hospital because they never really understood the underlying cause. Now, interestingly, the plot thickens because last year I was diagnosed with another rare condition that had also been contributing to this near-death experience, and nobody knew. And that's this condition is called medial arcuate ligament syndrome. And what that means, Susan, is the aorta is here.
Yeah.
Off the aorta is the celiac artery. The celiac artery is the artery that supplies blood and nutrients to all of the digestive organs. Well, unknown to me up until last year, this artery was severely being compressed by a ligament or a band of tissue wrapped around it.
Oh.
And so the backflow of the blood and then not getting enough blood supply to these other organs can cause dysautonomia or dysregulation of the autonomic nervous system. So I had no idea, other than weight loss and chronic fatigue, I had no idea how much this contributed to all of these other symptoms. And so last year, it's a very rare condition, like 2 out of maybe 200,000 people have this condition, or at least diagnosed with this condition. And I spent a week in a trauma hospital in Seattle getting this surgically repaired. So at any rate, though, if we're to move back to that time frame of the near-death experience, in the days to follow, Susan, what happened is before the near-death experience, I had to leave my corporate position. There was just no way that I was going to be able to hold down a normal job with this condition. The backstory also, I'm separated at this point, nothing to do with all of this, but just lots of stress. My mother, my elderly mother from New York, had just moved out here. We live together. And so now I'm going through a divorce. I left my corporate position. I've got a minor in my soul care. And now my elderly mother's living with me. And I have this near-death experience, which was my physical body it wasn't a spontaneous healing, but I will say it was absolutely a soul upgrade, because what happened in the days to follow is that voice came back to me and said, Amy, you're going back to school. I knew, Susan, that voice didn't come from me, because that was crazy. That was crazy talk. There was no way, with not feeling good. At this point, I'm only able to stay awake for about maybe 2 hours a day without needing to go to sleep or have rest. But interestingly, because of that near-death experience, I never questioned it. Now, it was a few more days before it was revealed that I would go back to school to study hypnosis. Now I knew there was some power to this voice, because I had never seen a hypnotist. I had never been interested in being a hypnotist, and I had never known a hypnotist. It wasn't anywhere on my radar. So I'm like, there's got to be something to this. I didn't even question this voice. So within 1 or 2 months, I was actually signed up to take this certification course. It was a very strange conversation I had with the instructor. Hey, I'm really sick. I've got this diagnosis. I don't know how I'm going to make it through your program, which, by the way, was over an hour both ways to get to this program. And I needed to take the shortened version, like the weekend version, because I needed income. I had blown through everything in my bank account and then some on my medical care that wasn't covered by insurance. And I was in dire straits. Signed up for this class, finished this class, and I finished in February 2016. And in February 2016, I threw up probably a chintzy website, no infrastructure to my company, no vision of where this was going to go. My only thought is, if I can see 1 or 2 clients a week and put food on the table, that was going to be enough for me. That I was listening to the voice, I was trusting the voice. And now, Susan, here I am, 10 years later, realized that the spiritual hypnotherapy was just a launch pad, because through the very first experience with my clients, I started recognizing energies were moving through me. The voice was coming into my sessions. And I slowly began to integrate energy healing and mediumship into my work.
Wow.
Here I am.
So this opened you up
Yeah.
to a whole new experience. So how did hypnosis, meditation, and metaphysical healing support your own recovery?
Oh, 100%. Susan, that's a great question. It's very interesting. And maybe this is the experience of other people who work in these alternative healing modalities. But first, I recognize that I call them gifts, but I want to qualify that by saying I think we all have these gifts.
Yes.
This isn't some elitist ability. A lot of people refer to it as the chosen one. I refer to it as the willing one. And spiritual awakenings can happen not just through near-death experience, but any major life transition can open up the spiritual pathways and ignite our inner healer and also our intuitive mind to take us on this beautiful path of finding what I call a career calling, what we were born to do. And the spirit world started really inspiring me to take more classes in energy healing, to go back to school for metaphysics, again, to learn more tools that I could integrate into my own life, to turn down the volume on my physical pain, to turn down the volume on self-limiting beliefs, self-sabotaging behavior, all the things. And it's through taking all of these courses in metaphysics and energy healing and mediumship that gave me the language, the framework, the vernacular for understanding this. And then what I did, Susan, is I have this candle meditation that I teach. In fact, this morning, my morning client, it is one of the most powerful tools that I found through metaphysics in helping my clients slow down the brain waves, deactivate the primitive mind. That's the part of the mind that keeps us in fight or flight, in a state of hypervigilance, and activate the higher mind, right, that has solutions, that operates from the vantage point of the soul or the spiritual part of ourselves. And so I began to use and practice in my own life what I now call the candle meditation. I'll make sure you get a link to that. I have it free on YouTube for any listeners or viewers, because that becomes an imperative tool in helping each one of us, Susan, ignite the healer within. Ironically, I never looked at either one of these conditions as something I needed to necessarily conquer or heal per se. I looked at it in terms of turning down the volume. How could I integrate hypnosis, what I call mystical meditation, and self-energy healing, right, into my protocol for myself and for my clients, to the extent that they could turn down the volume of whatever these internal distractions are, right, to a level that allows them to perform at the highest level. I laugh when people say, oh gosh, Amy, if we don't have our physical health, we don't have anything. And I laugh at that. I say, if we don't have our spiritual health, if we don't know who we are as a soul, then we're really in trouble.
Yes. Let me ask you, Amy, do you think you would be where you are today if you didn't have that illness? Do you think you would have gotten here anyway, or was that the catalyst to bring you to this point?
Oh, that was the catalyst. That was the catalyst. I wrote a book in this past spring that I published in August. And I believe in this book, it's a spiritual curriculum, but I talk about how all of us have mediumistic abilities. all of us have the potential to, or we do channel healing energies. And we don't have to be in an alternative healing role necessarily to share these, what I refer to generically as gifts of the spirit, right? Some of my most gifted clients work in corporate business roles as chief financial officer or accountants or district manager of supermarkets. But make no mistake, they carry the frequency of a helper healer, right? Because they're, without uttering a single word, is to infuse more light and love and compassion into the world, just in the way that they deliver services, the way they treat their clients, the way they treat their employees and their teams. So it's an energetics thing. So do I think I would be in this particular role had I not had this near-death experience? No. Do I think I would have had other forms of other spiritual aha moments? Yes. But I don't think I would have ever been brave enough to step out of the corporate world to create what I've created today. So that's an excellent question.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm sure a lot of people in your corporate worlds, when they found out that you were going from that to what you're currently doing, and if they don't understand the whole thing, they're like, oh my God, what in the world is she talking about?
Yeah. Absolutely, Susan. I needed both experiences. I needed to work. I began my career out here in the Seattle area in healthcare public policy. You can't get any more lobbying and the whole nine. You can't get more corporate-y than that, traveling and putting programs together and fundraising and all those things. And then I worked in a lot of healthcare settings as a rehab consultant, setting up new programs, working with people in chronic pain, a lot of work around injured workers and those types of things. But I needed to understand how the corporate world worked in order for me to be of any value to people as a spiritual hypnotherapist, working mostly with C-suite employees, people who are under tremendous pressure and may even be moving through a major life transition that's impacting their ability to lead and manage.
Yeah. So let's talk about hypnosis and the misconceptions of it. How do you explain what hypnosis really is and what it isn't?
Yeah, absolutely. If I call it down, like if I had to give you my quick elevator speech, I would say my job as a hypnotherapist, right? Even if we peel away the spiritual hypnotherapy piece of what I do, which I'll explain that in greater detail later. But hypnosis is about helping my clients resolve subconscious conflicts. What does that mean? Those are the things that hover beneath the surface of your awareness that are keeping you stuck. The triggers, right? The self-limiting beliefs, the self-sabotaging behavior.
Yeah.
And getting to the root cause, like where does that come from? But a lot of people think of hypnosis, we tap into the subconscious mind. That's true, right? That's where the things that hover beneath the surface of our awareness exist, right? When we're in an altered state, when our brain waves are slowed down, right? We're in a heightened state of receptivity to be able to connect with those things that are outside of our conscious awareness. However, one critical piece that I want to point out that a lot of people miss is also within our subconscious mind are the answers, are the solutions. See, traditional hypnotherapy, Amy, on year one of practicing hypnotherapy, traditional hypnotherapy is much like the one size fits all. Susan comes to me, she's got problems with anxiety when she's driving on the highway, or
that is me. That
Yeah.
is me.
How about that? How about that?
Oh my God.
It's great. I don't know. That's what Spirit brought through anyway. For an
And
example.
that's me.
I think now the roadways are so much crazier than they've ever been. Susan.
Welcome
So
to
that's
New
a common,
York.
yeah, absolutely. But that's a very common one, right? We're like, and plus the world is a crazy place. So we just never know, bumper to bumper. There's a lot of unknowns there. But people come to me with panic issues or anxiety issues, and anxiety triggers related to all kinds of things. It could be social anxiety when they're driving in traffic, anxiety going into the boardroom, whatever it is, right? And traditional hypnotherapy is very script based. It's like I put you in a deep theta state and I'm essentially making these post hypnotic suggestions. But I'll tell you, fast forward to now, look, I truly believe the answers lie within you. So I can make all kinds of suggestions and it may help you for a little while. But at the end of the day, it's going to be the revolving door of Susan coming back. Hey, it worked for a couple months, and 6 months later, you're like, oh gosh, for whatever reason, that anxiety trigger is back. And that's simply because hypnosis and using the one size fits all approach isn't very effective. It's far more effective if I can inspire my clients to journey inward to begin to understand like their own root cause, their own solutions. We have to address the underlying subconscious conflict. Yeah. A lot of times when people are afraid of flying, it has actually nothing to do with being afraid of the plane falling out of the sky. It's so much deeper than that. For some people, it's like they're claustrophobic. For other people, the anxiety is only triggered when they're on airplanes going to business meetings. But if they're going to Florida to visit their friends, they're like, lo and behold, Amy, I have no anxiety. So we can't just create this blanket statement that all people who have driving anxiety are afraid of, getting in a car accident, or we just don't know what we don't know. And so anyway, and the misconception about hypnosis is that people need to go into this deeper theta state in order for me to help them resolve subconscious conflicts. And in fact, I've long since dumped all the traditional hypnosis practices because I'm working with a lot of very smart, highly resistant, highly distrustful CEO level people who are like, this is bunk, Amy, this is bunk. You're not going to be able to hypnotize me. You're not going to be able to relax me. But do you know, at least 3/4 of the clients who I work with, either virtually or in my space, are able to resolve subconscious conflicts without going into the traditional hypnotic state.
Really? And how is that?
Yeah, it is. Again, I feel like the work that I do is highly intuitive, right? And that spirit is feeding me deeper questions. And a lot of times it's metaphysical questions, or it could be very basic questions that I'm asking my clients that ironically have nothing to do with the issue that brought them in to my space.
So what would be a metaphysical question that would come to you?
Yeah,
that's an example.
Sure. Okay, I can think of one. A few years ago, I had a woman come to me. She worked in the finance industry as a wealth management provider and a financial planner. And she had an exam, a very tough exam. She'd worked in the industry for a very long time. And the only thing that was preventing her from moving up to the next level or to the highest level was passing this exam that she had failed twice. And her job was on the line. Essentially, her boss told her, look, we can't keep employing you at this level. If you're not able to pass this exam, we're going to have to let you go. And she came into my space, Susan, And she was very anxious. She was also a little bit, what I'm trying to think of the word, she wasn't absolutely convinced that hypnosis could help her, right? Mm-hmm. So she was pretty highly resistant, but she figures at this point, I have nothing to lose. So she comes into my space and I'm sitting across from her and I'm gathering more information about her life story. And then out of nowhere, I just ask her, what is your mission in your job? Like, why are you so attached to this position that you've been working for the last, I don't know, 15, 20 years? What is it about this position that's do or die? Like, you have to pass this exam or your life is over. Because she was pretty fatalistic. Like, Amy, if I single mom, she had her child much later in life. She had a lot riding on this exam and tears started to flow. And she said, underneath all of this, Susan, was a story of complete financial instability growing up, a dad who couldn't hold down a job, a mom who I don't believe worked. They were always waiting for the other shoe to drop. And it was a very emotional story of her dad just never being able to pull it together, no savings, a lot of instability, a lot of emotional stress of the mom. I don't remember, I'm pretty sure the parents divorced, but it was a very tumultuous relationship. She never felt safe. And she hadn't even realized that this was, she'd never really articulated the mission behind why she followed this career path. And so she said, Amy, it's so much more than just helping people with investments. It's helping people find peace of mind, helping people understand numbers, creating order out of chaos, helping people pick a retirement date and understand what it means to be financially disciplined, taking this amount of money and helping people grow it. And because as a single mom, this has become very important to her. And then through all of this process, she began to understand her. And then I said to her, put on your helper healer persona here. This is less about dealing with money. This is you working as a helper healer. She had a boss who was bullying her, telling her, like, we can't have that. Just putting a lot of, instead of, you can do this, I believe in you, what can we do to support you? Pretty much every day, she was just poking at all of her wounds.
Yeah.
And in fact, there's a videotape on my website of me interviewing her in a podcast about that. It was very emotional. That woman, she'll say, Amy, I came to you for help in passing this test, but we never talked about the test. It wasn't really about the test. It was about the trauma beneath the test. And this feeling of unworthiness, this feeling of my parents handed me this formula of chaos. And so I came to believe that's all I was going to ever be able to experience in my life is waiting for the other shoe to drop and everything. Now, let me tell you, I interviewed her. She not only passed that test, but she's the top producer in her company.
Wow.
A female at the top, literally ahead of all of her male colleagues. The spiritual hypnosis part of what I do, Susan, is I like to help people understand who they are as a soul. I want them to look at their life journey through a spiritual lens, to ask the deeper questions. Why is your soul here? What's the fire in your belly? What's your reason for doing what you're doing? Because if you can't connect with the position that you're in, we got to search. We got to find something else that's in greater alignment with your soul's purpose.
Yeah, so true.
Just that mindset.
Yes.
And that's because I'm guessing, I don't know this for a fact, but I have a very cross-cultural group of clients who come from literally every corner of the map. And so many of them are first and second generation immigrants or came here to the United States by themselves with absolutely nothing. And they grew up in the projects or government subsidized housing. and literally lived pretty much self-sacrificial life, 12, 15-hour work days on and on for years so that they would never have to experience the level of financial distress that they grew up in. However, this very same group of clients really struggles with looking through the continual lens of scarcity.
Yes.
Always waiting. And it always makes me laugh because a couple times I've asked some of my clients, again, who have done extraordinarily well, and they're young people, by the way, Amazon executives are in their 40s. They've made it absolutely to the top tier, as high as they can go. And they're on course to retire early at 52, right?
Yeah.
Now, perspective, I'm 56. I'll be working for a while, Susan, but I don't mind. I don't mind. But I'll ask them, if you liquidate everything you have, would you be poor? And they always, Amy, that's ridiculous. I can't liquidate everything. And I'm like, yeah, but if you had to, what would it be worth? Would you be okay? And they'll really wrestle with me. First of all, they'll look at me like I have two heads. Amy, you're insane. Why would you ask such a stupid question? This is how I'm making money, Amy. I can't liquidate. And I'm like, okay, I'm just trying to make a point here. So there's a lot of work that I do with C-suite level executives on mindset.
Yeah.
Because also within the same group, a lot of these executives are worried about being fired. When
Yes.
they've been with their company for 20 years, they're always waiting for their other shoe to drop,
Yes.
right? These are a lot of times the energy that they absorb from their intergenerational trauma. Mom or dad consistently stressing over money throughout their entire life. So this is all they know.
Yes, yes.
So interesting.
I wanted to touch on the Executive Performance Hypnosis program.
Yeah.
You blend neuroscience with spirituality in a way that feels grounded and practical. How does that, because we're talking about executives, so usually executives are very right brain thinkers.
Yes.
So how does that
Completely.
gel? Like, how does that gel?
Absolutely. To an extent, right? Most people who come to me have been, first of all, C-suite executives don't have a lot of time they don't spend a whole lot of time on Facebook and Instagram and all this jazz. A lot of them come through a known network. So they've discovered me through somebody else, or they came to my website. They might have done some sort of search and found my website organically. But as they're reading my website, Susan, there's something in them, right? They fall under a category of what I call, which this category I think I fall under, teachable soul. They're like, maybe there's something to this. So it piques their interest. So they may have some spiritual leanings. Maybe even they haven't even necessarily articulated it. But everybody seems to have the story of an aunt who quit smoking using a hypnotist, or an uncle who had blood pressure issues who used the hypnotist and the blood pressure came down. They were able to, under medical supervision, come down off of the mountains of medication they had been on that was causing side effects. But there's something about that person that's open to the work that I do. And so they set up a consultation, which is free, and we dig in a little bit more to some of their challenges. The top things that people reach out to me as C-suite executives would be obviously work-related stress.
Yeah.
A lot of people in these positions are stressed about money, right? And meeting their target goals financially due to their performance. Maybe they work in high-level sales, or they manage a team of salespeople. And the other thing is, a lot of times these executives have a lot of emotional triggers around a certain personality type in their company. The boss who always comes down hard on them, or isn't supportive, or always seems to be working against them. There's a lot of paranoia, a lot of things going on in the boardroom that my clients catch wind of, that are creating paranoia about the future of their position and all of that, or even lawsuits. Some of the times people reach out to me is they're in the middle of their company's been sued and they're losing a lot of sleep. And the other reason might have less to do with work, ironically, and more to do with major life transitions. Maybe their spouse or a child is sick with cancer, and they're really having a difficult time managing the stress of work and toggling back and forth between the reality of their home life and their challenges or personal challenges and the stress of working in this high octane stress induced position.
Yeah.
And so they're coming to me to learn how to navigate this huge landscape of in minefield in some cases and challenges. And there's part of what I do falls under business coaching, right? How do we call out the wisdom of your experiences, looking through more of a spiritual lens? And my goal for my clients is to help diffuse the stress triggers and the anxiety triggers so that they can be more focused in their work and more grounded in their decision making, and also more confidently be able to handle conflict and challenges in the workplace, finding their voice, and learning to show up more authentically. And the other piece is teaching them self-hypnosis tools and meditation tools that they can integrate into their daily practice so that they are able, when they leave work, they're able to emotionally, physically, spiritually, cognitively leave work and to be able to have a personal life and create that steel curtain between their professional life and their home life. So
that's very important. That's very important. And when I was in corporate America, I was in corporate America for 27 years. You never turn off, because even if you're home, you're getting emails at 10 o'clock at night that you need to have a report on so-and-so's desk at 9 o'clock the next day. And seriously, so it's very important to put up that iron gate and say, that's it, I'm done.
Completely.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you, from a scientific perspective, what happens in the brain and the nervous system during hypnosis that supports healing and performance?
It's amazing. What we're trying to do through the hypnotic state is slow down the brain waves. And this regulates everything, the nervous system. What happens is we're able to, if I were to make what's called post-hypnotic suggestions to you, you come to me, just say I'm practicing more of the talk therapy, and you're coming to me and you're saying, Amy, I'm never able to unplug from work. I have this bedtime routine, but by the time I slip under the covers, I'm just not able to fall asleep, and my brain is racing, and it might be 2 or 3 hours before I'm able to get even to a light level of sleep. And I could say, oh, Susan, here's some suggestions. Take a warm bath, or maybe do some light stretching. Let's practice maybe 10 or 15 minutes of journaling, stream of consciousness, or whatever. And you'll say, oh, Amy, that makes sense. I'll try it. And a week or two later, you'll integrate this in, and you'll have some maybe moderate success on the front end. But after a while, what happens is your conscious mind is going to eventually reject it. Number one, it didn't come from you. It was my formula for you. And number two, I told you in a conscious state. So there's a critical factor, part of the conscious mind, that will eventually kick out any new suggestions simply because it's unfamiliar, right? It's not your go-to. Your go-to is to lie in bed and let the wheels churn. Yeah. This is a time, instead of sleeping, your mind and your body and your nervous system is still in a state of hypervigilance. However, if I were to put you into this deeper state and we're slowing down the brain waves, what happens, as I mentioned earlier, is we are deactivating the primitive mind, right? That's the part of you that's in a state of hypervigilance all the time, especially if you work in corporate America, because it's built on the mindset of always waiting for the other shoe to drop, isn't it? Like you have to be 10 steps ahead all the time. You can't sleep. You can't eat. God forbid you can't meditate, can't have time to hypnotist. None of that stuff is not going to work. And so in this deeper state, and there's 4 levels within the theta state, right? And each level has some wonderful therapeutic value, but what's happening is we're regulating the nervous system, right? The heart is slowing down, the breath, you're taking deeper breaths, right? We're moving you out of the physical state of panic, of worry, of overthinking, right? And now we're activating the higher mind, right? And we're creating a new experience, right? I'm walking you through a process of journeying inward, right? So for that time that we spend together in this deeper theta state, right? And I tell you, that candle tool is magical. That mystical meditation tool is wonderful, because what happens is I'm teaching you, or really forcing or jump-starting the process of each and every one of my clients letting go of the outer world. For a moment in time, nothing else matters but the present moment. And I'm walking you through the process of igniting your inner healer, of recognizing the inner light, right? The light that lives inside of you, that healing energy, right? And through this guided meditation process, believe it or not, these energies that already exist in you, this calm inner light, is trickling out, right? And resonating out into the deepest cellular level of your body, right? So I'm teaching you a form of energy, self-energy healing, right? We're diffusing or lowering the volume of the anxiety and the anxiety triggers. It's really rather incredible process. Like I said, for a moment in time, when you're in this deeper theta state, those problems cease to exist. And we're teaching the mind and body what it feels like to experience a state of complete emotional quietude. That state is so therapeutic. And by the way, even when people come out of the state of hypnosis, the energies that we've created, the experience of those energies ripple out through the day, through the week. And when we practice this, right, after a while, people don't need the candle, they don't need prompts from me. Ideally, I'm helping them be able to get into that state just by using the power of their mind and their breath, right? And I call it an anchor. It's called an anchor in hypnosis. There's a place that we can create using the higher mind, that then the mind and the body begins to associate with healing. Okay, so lots of tools, lots of visualization, but make no mistake, each and every one of my clients, right, the most powerful healer of all in this formula is you, right? It's not me. It's what I'm teaching you or empowering you to do for yourself. Okay. Again, I don't know his protocol, but what I can share my experience working as a hypnotist now for a decade is, again, my first and foremost, above and beyond all things, Susan, it is about resolving subconscious conflicts. When people come to me with major presenting issues, whatever it is, right? They can't sleep, they have insomnia, the driving thing, the stress triggers at work, whatever it is. First and foremost, I have to help them identify root causes, right? A lot of times, the things that trigger us in the here and now are the root causes way back in their childhood, right? Before the ages of 7 years old. This example that I gave you of the person struggling to pass the exam, like she knew that exam material, right? Like the back of her hand. She'd been working in that industry forever. Yeah. But every time she got in front of that exam, there was a panic trigger. She was hearing the voice of her boss saying, if you don't pass this, you're going to fail. She was going back to her, again, subconsciously, to her childhood where things were always financially stressful, right? That there was always a disconnect between her behavior and her outcome measures, her desirable outcome measures. So what I can say is I can hypnotize people all day, every day. And people say, are you sure you can hypnotize me? Yes, there's no problem hypnotizing people. The therapeutic value comes from identifying the subconscious conflicts. And see, all of the work that I do in the chair, getting people in the deeper level, I'm not actually doing hypnosis. Now I'm doing energy work. And I'm helping people release what we've already discovered are the self-limiting beliefs, or the self-sabotaging behaviors, or the cognitive dissonance that their experience is. This is what I believe, and this is how I'm behaving, and we've got to narrow the gap. So there's a whole process that takes form in conversation, by the way, asking the spirit-directed, deeper questions. I'm using my intuition. I'm using help from the spirit world to bring through the deeper questions, right? What's at the root cause of your stress over this job? Why does it mean anything to you? And that opened up a lot of deep wounds going back to her childhood, going back to the personality conflict she's having with her boss in the workplace, where every time she walks into her job, her stomach's in a knot. Okay. I better make sure before I get somebody into the deeper state that we've begun peeling some of those many layers, so the client has a deeper understanding of why those stress triggers exist. What is it about? Is it that you're really not a good student and you don't know the answers to this test, or is there something deeper going on there? So if you're a hypnotherapist and you're not helping people resolve subconscious conflicts, and by the way, you're not helping them connect the dots to find their own solutions, right? Her solution was not confronting her boss. Her solution was understanding the bigger picture. Why am I here? I'm here as a helper healer to help people create optimal health financially so they can breathe more easily. If I want to connect to that goal, I got to get over this hurdle and this fear of passing this stupid exam. And I've just got to lock into the goal and the outcome. It's not even about her income doubled pretty much overnight, but it wasn't even totally about the income. It was about the carrot that we needed to wave, and that she needed to see in front of her was like, there's a purpose to my mission. It goes beyond the bullying that's going on in my office. It goes even beyond the dollars and the fear of not being able to make a decent living. It's about helping other people. But she had to figure that out. I had to ask the deeper questions, Susan, and she had to figure this out on her own. And then she passed that damn exam. Okay. So there's relaxation and guided meditation, where you can find that all over YouTube. And that's really nice, but that's not going to help people solve the deeper issues. They're two totally different tools. When I do guided meditation, it could be for relaxing people, but there's got to be a deeper metaphysical question and some resolution on the forefront of that experience in the chair. Okay. And by the way, the tools that I teach, 12 minutes for people who tend to fall beyond, there's 4 levels within theta, right? Each going a little bit deeper. Some people will go into the sleep state. There's a place for that in energy healing. I think it's great to be in a sleep state with the client when we're doing energy healing. And this is an experience thing, Susan. It's not written up in the textbooks. I just know through experience, getting people, there's a sweet spot for helping people release some heavy energies and recalibrate to a higher frequency. That, if they dip into Delta, is beautiful. But in terms of the law of attraction and helping people be able to manifest desirable outcomes, they need to stay within the state of hypnosis. Otherwise, they're just taking a very expensive nap. And they're not connecting the dots. We should be hopefully giving them an experience in the chair so that they can see themselves through a clearer lens and have a better understanding of their purpose, who they are, what they need to release, and their desirable outcome measures. It has to be experiential. So it has to be more than listening to some random story that Amy's sharing. Again, there's a time and a place for that. But when it comes to creating change, there's a lot more intuitive work that needs to be done from the hypnotherapist, in my opinion.
Wow. I think that's a great way to end this conversation.
Sure, you bet.
Perfect.
You
Amy,
bet,
thank you so much. This was such a pleasure learning from you. I love your energy. I love the work that you're doing. I love your whole story, how you went from, being sick to coming out to the other side and helping so many people in the process. So it's beautiful.
Thank you, Susan. This has been such a fun conversation.
Absolutely.
Beautiful questions. A lot of I can tell there's a lot of depth to your soul. You've had a lot of life experiences because you only come up with those questions when you've had just a lot of life experiences and a lot of deep wisdom to extrapolate from those experiences. So thank you so much. And people can find me best on my website.
Thank you so much, Amy, for sharing your wisdom, your personal journey, and powerful work that you're doing to help people heal, lead, and live with greater clarity and purpose. Your ability to blend science with spirit in such a practical and compassionate way is truly inspiring. To my listeners, I hope today's conversation reminded you that healing doesn't have to be complicated. Success doesn't have to come at the expense of your health or your soul. Whether you're navigating burnout, chronic stress, pain, or simply feeling called to a deeper way of living and leading, there are tools available to support you at every stage of life. If you'd like to learn more about Amy's work, her Executive Performance Hypnosis program, or her book, Whispers Beyond the Veil, be sure to check the show notes for all the links. As always, thank you for spending this time with me on Susan LoPresti Wellness, Mind, Body, and Soul.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile with a message for everyone paying big wireless way too much. Please, for the love of everything good in this world, stop. With Mint, you can get premium wireless for just $15 a month. Of course, if you enjoy overpaying, no judgments, but that's weird. Okay, one judgment. Anyway, give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
Struggling with weight loss? Prolon's 5-day fasting mimicking diet is a clinically developed nutrition program designed to promote fat loss while protecting lean body mass. Developed at USC's Longevity Institute, it assists the body in entering a fasting-like state that helps reset metabolism and target visceral fat. In just 5 days, Prolon offers a science-backed approach to weight loss without extreme restriction or guesswork. Get 15% off plus a $40 bonus gift when you subscribe at prolonlife.com/now.